Tell me what you want. Go, go. Go like a crazy dog. Go do something. Go away. Go.
Okay, we're live and we're going to be talking about what is going on with the HPA, and also we're going to get into a little bit about Guam. So let's go ahead and start up the show. And with that, we're going to roll. Let me just remove this crap. Whatever. Okay. So with that, we're going to jump into this, and yeah. And here we go. All right, guys, we're back. Sorry about that. Rich was yelling at his dog when we were live. Doesn't surprise me. Today, we're going to be talking about where we stand with the HPA, Hearing Protection Act, and we're going to sprinkle a little bit of Guam in there, and hopefully,
So Guam tipped over?
Hopefully, it doesn't tip over. Rich, remember what Dark and I talked to you about today? And hopefully it won't tip over while we talk about it. But we're going to be talking about the HPA first, and it's all kind of related. Actually, let's jump into the HPA right now. The HPA is in the Senate. There's some issues with the big, beautiful bill, as Trump calls it, but those issues have nothing to do with the HPA. There are some people in the Senate that do not like the bill because there's a lot of spending in it. Instead of cutting the budget, it actually increases the deficit, and people like Rand Paul and certain other people have issues with it. Luckily for us, the HPA is not one of the problem issues. There's still enough vote to pass Section 2 of the HPA. Right now, we're not seeing a problem with Section 2 getting passed at all, but there is some other things that we need to have included in the bill. The first thing that we have to include in the bill that deals directly with the HPA is Section 3, which is state level protection. If the HPA passes without Section 3, there are 16 states that will make suppressors illegal overnight unless the states take action and fix their damn laws. So Section 3 would prevent that because it's state-level protection against states taking action against suppressors. That is the big update. And the second thing that we need to push for is the SHORT Act. The SHORT Act is not included in there quite yet. Hopefully it will be, but we need people to call your senators and demand that the SHORT Act be added there. So call your senators, and I'm going to throw up the number here, and we need for you guys to demand that the SHORT Act be included, not only the SHORT Act, but also the Section 3 of the HPA. Kurt, 24, member for 38 months, long time, says we need the SHORT Act, and yes, we do. All right, now, Rich, what would you tell the people to do?
So I would dial that number on the screen and say, "Hi, my name is Rich. I don't know my senator's phone number. I know I have to. Could you connect me to my senior senator?" And say, "Hi, I'm calling. I'm a constituent. I'm calling to talk to you about, one, the SHORT Act, including the full SHORT Act, Section 2 and 3 of it. And wait, did I get that wrong? The SHORT Act and the Hearing Protection Act, Section 2 and 3. Hang up, be nice and kind. Boom, call that same number back. Say, "Hi, I want to talk to my junior senator. I don't have his number. How do I get a hold of him? Could you transfer me there?" And do the same thing over again.
Yeah, they'll transfer.
So all you need to know is this number and your zip code. Senior senator, junior senator. Is there anybody else we should talk to?
That's right now who is we need to talk to. I'm hearing Lindsey Graham is supporting the HPA, which is a good thing. So,
So
section 2. Somebody asked, should we talk to leadership or your actual? Right now, I would say your actual representatives would make a big difference right now if you say we need section 3 of the
mhm.
HPA in there, and we need the short act in there. Be kind. And people are like, why should we be kind to these people? They're gonna take advantage
Because you
of
want
us.
them to care.
Well, you're gonna be talking to someone who is not your rep. You're gonna be talking to like some legal, like legislative aid. And that legislative aid will decide whether to pass on the information or not. Now, if you're rude to them, they're probably just not going to do anything. When will this go to? Uh, I'm not sure when it will be in the finance committee yet. Like I said, right now it's looking good for the HPA section 2. Section 3 needs to be re-added. I think we can get that re-added if we put enough pressure on them. They've been briefed about the issues and why section 3 needs to be in there. I can see that being re-added. The real fight is going to be under the short act, but we need to put pressure on them to include both the short act and section 3 of the HBA. They should know what both of them are because they're being briefed on them daily.
So in the future, are we gonna want to call the Senate Majority Leader Senate Whip?
Apparently, the Senate Majority Leader and the Senate Whip are both on board.
So just junior senator, senior senator.
Yeah.
So you call that number. Hi, I'm from this zip code. I want to talk to my senior senator. Hi, I want to talk to my junior senator. Include the short act, section 2 and 3 of the HPA. Boom.
Correct. We need section 3. Harp on section 3. You're like, well, I understand section 2 is looking good, and section 2 is actually in the appropriations bill. The reconciliation bill, sorry. The reconciliation bill, but we need section 3 because without that, there are 16 states that will make suppressors illegal overnight.
So typically West Coast type states, very
Oh,
liberal.
not even West Coast states, like
Really?
Ohio, for example.
No way.
Well, because you got to remember these laws have been on the books for a long time, and they're like, oh, well, they're covered under federal, so whatever. They basically tried to make a law so they can charge someone with having the suppressor on a state level if they get caught with the suppressor if it's not NFA. So that was basically made to add on a charge, a state level charge, but no one thought that suppressors were going to be coming off the NFA, and it looks like that's probably going to happen.
So there are a number. I know people like Drew from Oregon, and I don't know if I said that officially right according to Oregonians, but Louisiana. So because of these legacy laws, it would actually make future suppressors illegal because they're not an NFA item with a tax stamp.
Correct.
So there is an unintended consequence here.
Well,
so
all suppressors go ahead.
So that's why section 3 says, hey, no state can make it illegal. Go pound sand.
Yeah, well, also like all suppressors, if they come off the NFA gets the database gets deleted, and now you have a suppressor that's not regulated by the ATF.
I only have a digital stamp. I kind of feel bad about that.
So what happens is that since they're not registered by the NFA, even your legal suppressors would become illegal, most likely. Now, I don't know if they're going to actually be prosecuting people for it or not, but it will be hard to get new ones into states because suppressor companies are not going to want to.
So, question about suppressors: if suppressors are transferred as a 4473, I can buy a long gun in another state, but I can't buy a pistol in another state. Would a suppressor be like a long gun or like a pistol?
That's a good question. I believe that they're going to be regulated like pistols, but they could be long guns. I don't know. But that's a very good question. Now you want to jump into Guam?
Sure. It's still right set up, right?
It's still right set up. Good old Hank doesn't have to worry about it being flipped over. Okay, so what is going on in Guam? Guam suppressors are illegal in Guam right now, but not for long. A supermajority have voted to go ahead and make suppressors legal.
Sweet.
It's on its way to the governor of Guam's desk right now for signatures. People are like, Guam, even not another country, no, it's a territory.
So like Puerto Rico.
Yeah, when I was mentioning it to someone, they're like, why do we care Guam? That's illegal. I mean, they're not that illegal. That's not the United States. And it's like, well, yeah, it is. It's part of the United States.
And then there's weird things about territories. So I think they can vote in primaries, but not in elections. It's like presidential primaries, but not presidential elections.
Yeah, something like that. The Guam Senate is made up of 15 people. 11 of them voted to legalize suppressors.
Wow.
So that's a veto-proof majority. So even if the governor decides, hey, I'm going to veto this bill, which all indications say he's probably going to sign it, it means that it doesn't even matter. They have enough to they have enough to pass to override a veto, but it's not going to be needed.
Now, what are the gun laws like on Guam? Do we know anything else about it?
I got a friend that lives on Guam. He went there. He flew in on September 9th, and you know what happened on September 11th, and he decided I'm never getting on another airplane. So he just stayed.
Well, okay then.
Seriously. Okay. They do have a firearms ID card. And that allows you to open carry handguns and long guns.
Okay. Not constitutional carry, but I mean, they have open carry, unlike Florida.
Yeah, so basically their laws, NFA stuff is prohibited.
Mm-hmm. So that's a big change. I mean, if they go from NFA prohibited to suppressors allowed, that's a big deal.
They have concealed carry permits. They do have a firearms registration. You have to go through an FFL to transfer firearms. They have universal background checks.
Oh, wow. So basically, they have a registry then, because if there's a background check for every transaction.
Yeah, and a judge can, if you have a restraining order against you, they can forbid you from having firearms. But other than that, I mean, their laws are pretty good. I mean, they don't ban any, like, they don't have like magazine limitations or assault weapons bans or anything like that.
So it's kind of a mixed bag. You know, it's not all great, but you do the right paperwork, you pay the right fees, you do get your rights. That should be
Yeah,
free.
which I don't. Yeah, I don't think they should have to do that. But yeah, their child issue, they do have a FOID and they do have universal background checks. But other than the owner's ID card, and universal background checks, and the banning of NFA stuff, everything else is pretty good.
Hmm. Well,
But you do
okay.
need a license to open carry too, which I don't like. I don't like a license to carry. I mean, I think any type of you should be able. I don't think you should have to have anything.
Right, I agree.
Why Jose Torres says sorry. I'm in my hockey mind. Jose Torres says, why hasn't the short act been added? The reason why the short act hasn't been added is because the big beautiful bill just arrived in the Senate right before they recessed. The goal is in the Senate is to have it signed by the 4th of July.
I'm a little shocked at that timeline. So we got a whole we got a whole 4 weeks for them to fudge it up, and that's what I'm not happy about. I'm like,
Well,
do it now.
yeah, the okay, what I think's gonna happen, the two things can happen. They can take the House bill and just tweak that a little bit, or they can go to conference and they can make their own bill. Then the two chambers have to get together and come up with an agreement. The latter, I don't think, is going to happen because their goal and their whole stated purpose is to get this signed by 4th of July. Since they are trying to get it signed by the 4th of July, I don't think they're going to bring it to conference and come up with their own reconciliation bill.
Now, why is there some budget thing that happens 4th of July? Is the government running out of money and they're going to
No,
shut down?
no, they just want to get it done by the 4th of July.
Okay.
They have stated that this will be done by the 4th of July. And if it goes to conference, they wouldn't have time.
Mm-hmm.
So since they're stating that they want to get it done and the president sign it by the 4th of July, that tells me that they're not planning to go to conference and come up with their own reconciliation. They're just going to modify the House. I
Okay.
could be wrong. Anything can change.
So what we know about the Senate and the HPA is they're for it.
That's what we're hearing. Fry Out Design says the NFA. I don't think the NFA is going to matter if a loaf of bread costs $100, and I think that is part of the issues that some people have with it. There's something called salt tax. It's not salt like you put on your food. It's state and local taxes. Basically, you get a break if your state is high tax, like New York, for example. A lot of people don't like that because it's unfair that people in like New York and all these left-leaning high-tax states get a break on the backs of people that live in freer states. So that is one of the huge issues.
So SALT stands for state and local taxes. So if you live in New York, in Southampton, and you're paying $30,000 a year for your property tax, and you pay all sorts of money for your state tax, you get to deduct that from what you pay federally. So the feds get less of what, like if you make 100 grand in New York and 100 grand in Florida, the feds take more money from Florida man than New York man.
Yeah, because the state, the salt tax, that's the whole salt thing.
The SALT deduction.
The salt deduction, yeah. So there's a big battle over that, and there's some other spending stuff that some Republicans don't like, especially like the more libertarian ones, the more financially conservative ones. For example, Rand Paul, who has never met a gun law that he likes.
Really?
He's not for the big beautiful bill because of the increase in the deficit instead of decreasing the deficit. I think that's what frag out is getting at right there.
And I don't. I'm so frustrated because Trump's prior 4 years, they just kicked the can down the road, and they never did anything to stem the just astronomical spending. I and I guess I think what we need to do is all face the reality that the people in office in the federal government get campaign money because then they spend federal money with different things. So the power in DC is them writing a check. So you lobby them for whatever, you pay money to them to their campaign, and then they pay for your services in the future.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you guys how to feel on salt. I have my feelings on it. If you feel strongly that salt should not be included or salt should be included, you should definitely bring that up when you call about the short act in section 3 of the HPA. But we're a gun channel, so we focus on the HPA portion of it and the short act portion of it. But I mean, I don't like salt. I don't like the whole salt thing. I don't think it's fair. But it's in there, and I hope it gets removed or reduced or whatnot. But we're a gun channel, so we concentrate on the HPA and we concentrate on it. I I I bet John and Rich a PMAG each that Trump does not end up signing it over counter suppressor purposes, even with the 4473 by the end of 2025. If it gets to his desk, I think it will be. Section 3, I think it will be. I think it does pass the Bird rule. And that's not just me saying that. There's a lot of really smart people, including the Supreme Court, that have said that the NFA is primarily a tax and can be changed through reconciliation. So Section 3 can be re-added. What can't be added is like stuff like the Shush Act. The Shush Act would remove suppressors from both the NFA and the GCA. Now, the NFA is primarily a tax as per the Supreme Court, but the GCA is not. So the Byrd rule would prevent anything being done from removing suppressors from the GCA, but that was attached in the reconciliation as an amendment. It failed because it's like, hey, that's not a tax thing. But like a lot of people put in amendments to reconciliation knowing that it isn't going to become. Yeah, but a lot of smart people say, like, the Supreme Court said the NFA as a whole is a tax law. As a whole. So that means anything in the NFA can be changed via the Byrd rule. And that is that is what I am being told by people in the actual Senate. So I'm not talking like, hey, this is what I think. I'm talking about this is what people, sitting senators in the Senate and their staff have told me directly. And you got to remember that, those are the guys that they decide what the rules say because it's a rule, it's not a law.
So, any Florida gun news?
Yeah, and Hughes versus Florida, which is a case featuring our very own Flying Rich, Richard Hughes. There was a motion for summary judgment filed yesterday. It is a brilliantly written motion for summary judgment. If you go to foundation.gunowners.org and you click on litigation, you can find it says Florida open carry case. Click on that. You can read for the motion of summary judgment.
That's cool.
So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Mitch, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the people in the Senate think, because it's a rule and they can interpret the rules however they want, because it's not a law. So it's not like you take them to court to say, hey, you violated this rule, because you can actually suspend the rules.
Oh, that's interesting. So, in other words, you could say, "Hey, bird rule, schmurd rule, we're gonna remove suppressors from the GCA."
But you can suspend the rule. I don't think
Mhm.
that's going to happen, and I
So,
don't think
motion
it
suspend
should
the
happen.
rule. A. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, Cruz and Crapo, they are definitely for. Crapo wants the whole kit and caboodle. Cruz wants Section 3 too. So there you go.
Well, cool.
But yeah, the rules can be suspended and they can be interpreted. But he can't say anything about it. Yeah, true. I don't think he should. I would stop him.
So let me ask you this, and I'm just a little annoyed at the courts. Is it if the Senate or the House say, "Hey, bird rule, we don't care. We're removing suppressors from the GCA. We're going to suspend the bird rule or whatever rule. We're going to throw it in reconciliation, no matter what." Could somebody go to the courts and say, "Hey, that's not the proper interpretation of the rule," or that's
No,
just
it's
germane
a
to the,
rule. It's not a law.
so it has nothing to do with
It's a
the
Senate
Supreme
rule.
Court?
It's a Senate rule. It has nothing to do with the courts.
Okay. Unlike any executive order Trump does, the Supreme, or not the Supreme, but lower courts say, "Hey, now we're going to throw a stick in your spokes."
If you want to make a homemade silencer, that would be a Form 1.
And right now in the legislation, you can do that. You're not required to do a tax stamp because that was the silencer central, right? I got that right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Silencer central was try to make sure, no, you can't make your own can. You can't form one.
Well, you could
So,
Form 1, but you would, like, under what Kustoff wanted, it would be a $200 tax fee to Form 1. Basically, like AOW. A Form 4 AOW transfer is $5, but if you make your own AOW, it's a $200 fee.
mhm, mhm. So right now you could well, it once the legislation that's currently existing in the law that has been passed and signed and made law yet, but when it does, as the current text is, you can file a Form 1. Wait, do you even have to file a Form 1? Because it's like building your own gun.
No, you don't have to. But if the HPA passes the way it is,
There's no
you
Form
would
1, no
not.
tax.
There's no Form 1.
So
You won't need a permission.
so just like building a polymer 80 or an 80% AR-15 or 1911 or fill in the blank, you can build your own can at home and it's your own damn business.
Correct. Correct. Exactly.
But you can't buy a Wix filter.
You can't buy a Wix filter because the ATF is still going to determine that those are suppressors. So there you go. Currently, as the law until the HPA, yes, as the law stands right now, Cyber Ninja is saying you do need a Form 1. That
Correct.
is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Thank you for specifying.
Yeah, and you have to add metal to it. So when you print, you have to serialize a metal piece and insert it into your print if you're using a printer, whatever. It has to be engraved to the same specifications as like an SBR or an SBS. They actually had to add metal to it. There were some people that were trying to sell. They had an SOT and everything, but they were trying to sell like 3D printed suppressors that didn't have the metal. The serial number was just like part of the print, and that didn't go too well for them. So there you go.
All right, so the range just woke up. Did we win or lose? No win, no loss. Still same as yesterday.
Well, if you live in Guam, it's a win. So Guam is about to legalize suppressors.
Guam is right side up and legalize suppressors.
Yeah, the ATF wants it inserted. It's actually part of the statute. That you have to serialize it. And then the ATF says it has to be this depth on metal, whatever. So the serialization part, the statute says you have to serialize it. The ATF says it has to be this depth and this wide. You know, they have a whole standard.
I actually have an AK. You cannot read the serial number on it. It's almost humanly impossible. You have to be in bright sunlight at the right angle.
Yeah.
So Gunday Morning Quarterback is asking, is DeSantis moving on repealing gun control down there still? Not that I know of.
No,
So-
he's making some statements.
Yeah, he's like, hey, if you give me these bills, I'll sign them. And
he made some statements recently, like in the last
okay.
day. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. So he is he's making a push.
So and I'm hoping Stephen Stambolier gets the win on this, because instead of what was it the Ninth Circuit Court did to him, or Hawaii has done to him, where he's just about to cross the finish line and then they pass a law saying, oh no, that's legal.
All right, guys. We're going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, we are gone. Have a great day. Bye.
So we doing a 5 o'clock?
Rich, can you end the stream? We're still live, dude.